Please.
I'm Betty Shelton, and I'm from Somerville, Tennessee.
Mrs. Shelton, you are recognized in your community for leadership within the community and church. You have supported your husband throughout his career. What were some of the highlights, and what do you consider major events that have helped shape your community?
Well, first of all, I'm not a businesswoman. But when I married, I had been teaching school for 3 years, and I had $40 in my bank account. I was a well-dressed teacher, but I know one thing: preacher did not marry me for my money. Now, preacher is my husband, and he got that name when he was in the first grade, and it stuck with him throughout his life. When we married, he was county trustee, and he stayed in that position for about 14 years. And then he went across the street and joined the Somerville Bank and Trust Company, where he served as president for 37 years. It was sort of a partnership deal. I knew nothing of the inside operation of the bank or knew anyone's business, but I was, to the best of my ability, a banker's wife. Now, preacher served as president of the Tennessee Bankers, and during that time, when you're first lady of the president, you had to present a gift at the ladies' luncheon to the ladies. And usually it came from a factory in your county. Well, our only factories at that time were a men's pants factory and a bicycle seat. Neither one was very appropriate to give to a ladies' luncheon. So I came up with the idea that we would do a statewide cookbook. And we did a cookbook and named it Recipes You Can Bank On. It was a huge success. They reprinted it several times, and women today still beg for that cookbook. It was given at the 100th convention to the ladies that year, and they just treasured it. I think one of the highlights of our career is that we were both in a position to help people. You take changes as they come, and over my desk where I now do all my business, there is a saying that says, "Never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God." And so together we became involved in many activities in the county. We helped support many functions to raise money for diabetes, cancer, heart. We even raised money for all types of sports and schools, the public and the private. And we brought to town the Memphis Symphony a couple of years. And then let's see what else we did. We had inspirational speakers as well as comedians. And we were very instrumental in celebrating the sesquicentennial of the county. Now, Alexander, I have to tell you this. When preacher first went in the bank, for 2 or 3 years, they gave him beautiful gifts, alligator belts, just real nice gifts. About the 3rd year, he said, "I really appreciate this, and I can't tell you how much I thank you for thinking of me and doing it this way. But next year, I want you to give me a monetary gift, and I will match that gift, and it will go to Fayette Cares." Helping Fayette Cares in the early years was a real treat of ours, something that we really wanted to do. And I can't tell you, I think today that Fayette Cares plays a very major role in the county, and I think it's one of the highlights of the county. We help, and they in turn help other people. So I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful organization. Our roots go very deep in Fayette County. We have a farm that our family has been in for 150 years, and we are very interested in the aspects of farming, and we are very knowledgeable about the ways that farming has changed. But we are also very interested in the economic welfare that farming brings to our county. Our boys now have our farming operation.
When did preacher become preacher?
Preacher was not a preacher.
Okay.
Preacher was a politician, and then he was a banker.
Okay.
When he was in the 1st grade, he was a preacher in a Tom Thumb wedding. Now, you're too young to know what a Tom Thumb wedding is, but it's a mock wedding put on by 6-year-olds. Now, don't ask me exactly what he did to make his name stick, but from then on, 6 years old, it was preacher. And we get most of our mail, Mr. and Mrs. Preacher Shelton, or Mr. Preacher and Miss Betty. It's just preacher. And most people don't know that his name is James Harvey. He graduated from high school, and then the next day went into the Army Air Force. And that's what happened during World War II. And he had never been out of Fayette County. Bless his heart. He went to Louisiana, and then he went to Madison, Wisconsin. He came back home, and when he first got back home, he taught, I had forgotten this, but he taught veterans. He taught, for 2 years, I think he taught veterans. And then he ran for county trustee. At that time, that was a political, well, still is. And you run for that office, and he ran for that office and won, and stayed in there for 14 years. And then he left politics and went over to the bank. I don't know whether any of you were at the funeral or not, but they related this story at the funeral, and I've heard it so many times that they could say something funny in the courthouse, or they could tell a joke. And it was before the courthouse was air conditioned, and everybody had just a big window, and the preacher sat in that window a lot. And if you could tell a joke, you could hear preacher laugh all over the town square, because he had this really robust laugh. And he laughed a lot. He loved life. I did too. I do too. You know, preacher and I traveled the world over. We went from Hong Kong to all over Europe, and we had a cruise down the Amazon, which I hated. And we just traveled many places. Our little granddaughter, let's go into Italy, went upstairs, and she found a book where we'd been to Italy twice, and she's, oh, Mama, I've got to look at this. So I could tell her a few places that we had been. And I remember we were in Florence, and that's where she's going most of her time while she's there, spending her time in Florence. And we were called home from Florence. My father died while we were there. And I can remember she said, do you want to fly into Pisa and then into Rome to get a plane, or do you want a private car? Preacher said, we'll take a private car. And the guy could not speak a word of English, nor could we speak any Italian. And he drove us for a 2.5-hour drive to the airport. And we got to the airport, and the tour guide had called ahead. And they were standing on the curb, Mr. and Miss Shelton, and took us straight in. When we left Florence, there was not a ticket for preacher. She only had one ticket. I said, well, I won't go without it. So when we got there, of course, they had 2 tickets. And it was right after an incident in the Rome airport. There had been a shooting, and I remember John Grisanti from Memphis was in that airport at that time. And they were still on high alert with machine guns everywhere. I was scared to death. But probably the safest place in the world at that time. But we were really lucky to get to travel. We traveled everywhere and enjoyed all of it.
But you came to Fayette County. It was always
Our
home.
heart was here. Our roots are here. And our boys, I don't think, will ever truly leave Fayette County. Steve built a house on the farm, and he and his wife, when they married, I said, I don't think that little girl's going to stay on that farm. I don't think we could blast that little girl off of that farm.
What would be your advice to young women starting out in life in today's environment?
I think first thing I would say, if life hands you lemons, make lemonade. I read an article the other day, and it said how to live a long life. Now, we all know you exercise and you diet. But did you know staying socially active is a good way? Well, I'm 82 years old, and I don't have time to do anything but stay socially active, and I'm not going to do any different. I don't want to slow down. I want to go out of this world thoroughly used up and completely worn out, and thank God for a great life. I think everybody needs to do something, a hobby that they really enjoy. I like to cook, and I've made some doozies. I remember that Preacher and I belonged to a couples bridge club for 40 some odd years, and I can remember one time making a pie, and it didn't say put it in the refrigerator, but I put it in the refrigerator. And that night when I got ready to serve it, we couldn't get it out. And this man came in and he said, "Don't worry about it. Give me that knife and I'll chisel that piece of pie out." I love to cook and I love to read. I read every single day. And most of the time I fall asleep at night with a book in my hand. I would say in today's world 3 things to the women. First of all, I'd say love your God. I cannot go a single day without my God. I've done a lot of praying. I pray driving in my car. I pray over the sink washing dishes. And I've spent a lot of time in prayer on my knees. And one of my friends said, "Stay prayed up." And then I think I was so involved in my church. I loved my church. I was a Sunday school teacher in the children's department. I was a Sunday school teacher in the adult department. And I was even on the board of trustees. And I think you're going to find in your church the most wonderful people in the world sitting in the pews with you. The second thing I think I would say to you is love your family and tell your family every day how much you love them. I lost my preacher 2 weeks ago to Alzheimer's. And before he got very, very sick, he could say to me every day, "I love you. I love you." And he said it all day long. "I love you." I have 2 boys, and they are so helpful to me. And the "I love yous" flow freely from those 2 boys. I have 7 grandchildren, and I can't tell you about all 7 of them, but I'll take maybe 3 of them. James is our grandson who has just finished college and graduated from the University of North Carolina in Asheville, immediately joined the Peace Corps, and is now in Madagascar serving 2 years, making a difference, helping others. Our granddaughter Mary Lois is going to Italy this summer, and then she's coming back to finish her senior year at Northland College in Wisconsin. And Mary Lois took a year off and worked for Heifer International, making a difference, helping people. Our youngest granddaughter, Madeline, will be a sophomore at Appalachia State next fall. I've just got to drink. Will be a sophomore at Appalachia State next fall. Madeline is a real trooper. She was diagnosed with diabetes at 4 years old. No diabetes on either side of our family, one of those things. And I remembered that we had to give shots, and I thought, oh, I cannot do that. But her life depended on it, so I learned to give shots. And one day she looked up at me and she said, "You know what, Mama? I'm going to call you Queen of Shots." And then Madeline's blind in one eye, but she leads the most amazing life, and with that wonderful sense of humor that she has. She says, "Don't get on the left side, I may bump you." But she's going to do a lot in her life to lead other people the way they need to go. She's going to make a difference. The third and last thing I would say to these young women is treat people fairly. I love friends. I don't know what people could do without friends. Friends help you to be that person, that caring, loving person that you want to be. And they're for you. They are there for you every time you need them. I read Proverbs 3:5 every day. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Well, there's a lot that makes me smile about Fayette County. Yes. I think probably, I don't know how many gangs we have in Fayette County, but I feel like we have some really, really good students, some really wonderful young people that are going to make something of their life, that they have a good foundation. I think we have so many mothers and fathers and grandparents now that really work with those young people and instill some values. I feel like we have a lot of that in Fayette County, and that's your future. That is your future. And I think the churches are really trying to reach out to young people and to children, and we have to. I just think Fayette County, I used to say we lived in the best part of the world, our little corner of the world, because we were so fortunate to be close to Memphis and really enjoy everything they had to offer, and we could come home to our little hamlet. And that's the way I felt about it. I would not want to live in Memphis, but I'm so happy that they have things to offer that we can enjoy and yet come home. I think Fayette County has a wonderful future in front of them. I can hardly believe Memphis is brought out here and put in Fayette County, the St. Jude Dream Home. Isn't it the St. Jude Dream Home
It
is
is.
here?
It is.
I buy a ticket to that every year and think I'm going to win, but I don't. But I'm happy to give that $100 ticket to help St. Jude.